Welcome to week 5. There's a lot to go through on this week's module in preparation for your first photographic assignment coming up, which is due, I think, the first week in November. I haven't released the module for this yet, but it's called Creating Still Images, and I'll release this as soon as I'm done recording the video. I wanted to go through and go through the rubric with you. There's not an assignment due this week yet, okay? But it's somewhat of a primer to get you involved in terms of what needs to happen. So let me go over the rubric with you first off, and then I'll quickly go through the activities here that I have set up for the week. So basically, you're responsible for your blog for 12 photographs over the course of your posting, not all at the same time. You can do 3 or 4 at the same time or whatever you need to go through and support what it is that you're doing. And for some of you, depending on the content, the subject of your blog, this is going to be challenging because some of your content might be beyond maybe your photographic scope. But we'll see how creative you are in going through and putting this together. So the rubric goes through and says, acquire images that amplify the impact of your content, support your story or lends context to the theme of your blog. Edit and digitally enhance your images for clarity and aesthetics. Post your images to your blog, integrating to complement your message. Okay, so one of the primary skills you need in terms of new media production is how to shoot still images and how to go through and edit those, how to compose them, how to expose them correctly, right? And then edit and upload to your blog. So that's what this is getting into. There's 200 points possible on this. It breaks down into 3 different areas. The first one is that you have a minimum of 12 images, okay, that you've shot that go through and have something to do with your posts, obviously, okay, that you've created. You haven't downloaded this from something else. You haven't downloaded from Google. You've shot these images, all right? And I'm looking for you to do this using composition rule of thirds, vectors, and frame forces. There's a video on that. Proper exposure, and using shutter speed and aperture to go through and create the story that you want to create with those. So that's number 1. Number 2 is then you've digitally edited your content for exposure, saturation, structure, clarity, and aesthetics. I'll get into that a little bit later into the week. And then number 3, you've posted images in their proper proportional size to your blog's margins. And I'll throw up a little bit of a tutorial for that. For now, for the beginning of the week, I've putting up a number of videos that get you oriented to the first item of the rubric. So let me go out of that and go out to the modules. So we have exposure, which is an overview of exposure and how the 3 axioms of exposure come together and create the photographs that we're trying to do. Now, for this assignment, you can do this with anything, and I'm really encouraging you, if you have an iPhone, to do it with your iPhone. And you can go through and manipulate exposure within that device as well. I'll put a tutorial up on that. If you want to use a DSLR, that's better, okay? That's even more cool because then you have a lot more latitude in terms of what you can change. This gets into DSLRs and mirrorless digital cameras in terms of using those controls to manipulate exposure. And then I'm going to break this down. From exposure then I get into speed, depth, and sensitivity. All right. There's a cool video here that gets into a really nice demonstration of all the variables put together. I didn't do this. It was done by a third party that does very well with that, so you want to take a look there. And then I have some text-based information, a shutter speed primer and a depth of field primer that get into a breakdown of everything all those videos have talked about. Now this is a lot, I realize, a lot to consume over the first week, but this is really kind of an introduction. And like I said, once you start getting into your blog, the assignment itself is not due until the first week of November. So that gives you some time to start taking a look at this information and applying it. Go out and shoot, okay? Go out and create images. And if you want, post them up to me and let me take a look at them. And I'll be glad to go through and give you some advice. Or come by my office on campus Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we'll be happy to go through and talk to you more in depth about creating still images and getting that together. So watch for about Wednesday, maybe Thursday. There'll be a couple more items put up here in the module. I might actually spread this out to next week as well because of so much content that's going on. But for the time being, let's get you working on this one. All right? Good luck. You know where to find me.